All right.
Where'd everybody go?
Okay. Well, let's go. Okay, you guys see that? So far, so good?
Yes.
Okay. And let's see if we can get that guy to go big. There we go. All right. So good evening, everybody. And like I said, welcome to our February meeting of the Davis Electric Vehicle Association. Just a couple of things as we get started. In fact, I was supposed to do this before. We're recording the meeting. And so if you don't want your picture on and being recorded, you can turn your video off and you can change your name up there too if you want to. But it's always nice to put that on. Just a couple of things.
Oh.
And you probably have learned all this already is
All right.
make sure you're set to mute. And that way you don't hear your background conversations because you're so excited about what you're seeing tonight. And right here, I've myself, Richard Bode. I've got Chris Granger of Cool Davis helping out, and Katrina Sutton as well is going to help us with the chat and keeping going on that. Just covered this already, and about ready to get started. So we have some good topics we want to talk about. I'm really interested in tonight. First, we're going to talk. Randy Wilson's going to present something on his new Hyundai Ioniq 5. I'm really interested in hearing about this because I got a test drive of this last year. I didn't get to buy the thing. I kind of wished I had now. It was a great car. I loved it. So I thought it'd be great to have somebody share what he thinks about the car. Then Guy Hall is going to talk about the EV incentives under the 2022 Inflation Reduction Act. And the way I look at it, these things are changing almost weekly. So hopefully Guy's on top of that and hopefully can give us some good news. And then we're going to review DEVA's 2023 events calendar. Like every year we have quite a few items already planned. And actually we haven't done the planning for them. We got them on the calendar. So with that, I'll open up to Chris, do you have anything to add?
No, I think that covers the agenda. We can just get started.
Okay, let's go to the hot topics. So let me, I'd be good about doing this when I'm sharing my screen here, is see this. Let me do a new share here on my, let me see this. So one of the things we want to talk about is we're going to plan to do a field trip in February to go to Ohm Electric Cars in Dixon. And if I can find out what I did with my ad I put up here, here we go. All right. So Ohm Electric Cars is owned by actually one of our DEVA members, Ash Dalal, who's Ash unfortunately can't make it, but we're planning to go out to his new shop that's out there. And he wants to show us what he's got. And he's got some EV maintenance, some EV car wiring out there. He's got a dynamometer that he wants to show us. And he's also he's working on a what's called, he told me, the Zeus truck, which is something, a large electric truck that he's gonna he's making for SMUD. So one of the things we thought we'd do too is to make sure we're going to actually planning to get some pizza and drink, which always is great. Get that for everybody. And Chris, do we have a plan for doing this? Is it basically having maybe put something in the chat later today and later tonight, and then allow people to basically write us a note saying, hey, I'd like to come.
So I think we'll do an e-blast this week to the whole list so that everybody on our list can be invited, but ask them to RSVP
Good.
to the DEVA message line.
Okay. Because we don't want to get too much, but even worse, we don't want to get too little pizza. So yeah. Okay. Okay, let me pop on back See if I can get out of this guy. Okay. Does anyone have anything else they'd like to bring up? Any hot topics to share?
Would you like us to send an announcement on this open house to the Assoc EV community?
Yeah, be good. We can coordinate that with you guy, and
Yeah,
Just send the kind of the text. Actually, just send whatever you want written up and send it to news@SACEV, and it'll get out to our various. It'll actually bounce back to you guys as well.
oh, really? Okay.
You're on our news distribution.
Do you know what day of the week that is?
That's a Saturday. Sorry, that's a Saturday. Yeah.
is that right? Or Sunday? I think
Oh, you might be
it's
right.
I think it's Sunday.
I think we decided to change it to a Sunday.
So we wouldn't conflict with other things, maybe.
Yeah,
but
it is a
somebody
Sunday.
should check that on their calendar right now.
I just did. It is Sunday. That's right. We were going to do it on Saturday, but we were afraid too many people might have already have plans for either doing things with their kids or going out to farmers market and looking at all the cool Davis things that are going on farmers market. So it's Sunday, February 26th.
1 to 3, correct? Is that?
That's correct.
Richard, you're still showing that slide, so.
Oh, really? Am I?
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay. How about now?
Hey,
That's good.
Richard, this is Barbara. I have an item.
Great. Go ahead, Barbara.
Some of you may have heard about or gotten an email from an organization called Recurrent. And Guy knows all about this, that Recurrent is offering to do free battery health reports, free monthly battery health reports for people. They are gathering data, essentially doing research on how quickly battery performance degrades when you're driving an EV. So they determine how many miles you've driven, when and how you've charged, and how much you've charged. So Robert and I were really interested in doing that now that we have a more than 6-year-old car. And so I signed up, and they use a third-party app that will connect to your car and automatically feed the battery data to them. And I wasn't able to do that. And it's because, given the age of our Leaf, our car has a 3G modem. And when AT&T discontinued support for 3G, we can no longer talk to our car remotely. Like, I can no longer turn on the heater remotely or see my level of battery charge remotely. So just to let people know that if they might be interested in signing up for this, for example, you can just Google Recurrent battery and find it. But that, depending on your car's communication abilities and preferences, you may not be able to have it connect with them.
I've been on Recurrent for about 1.5 years, and they're at the end of every month they do give you a little report. It's not too nerdy, and it's interesting stuff.
Okay. We'll look for that too. I remember seeing that somewhere too in my email recently. I'll have to look that up. Maybe we can send that out.
I wanted to also say, Barbara, that's a really good point about 3G versus 4G. Because I think it's really more interesting if your car is older to be able to see the battery health. And actually my car is on 2G. So I agree, it's a little old fashioned, but I'm fascinated. I would love to know what, a 10-year-old car now, what her battery health is looking like. But
Right.
That's a
right.
really good point about the network capabilities that, the world is now supporting.
Well, you're just lucky that your car isn't trying to communicate in Morse code or,
By like carrier pigeon.
yeah, yeah.
A bunch of birds
Actually,
flying out of the car.
carrier pigeon would work way better than the 3G is working for us.
All right, noted. I'll look for carrier pigeon.
Yeah.
I think that Recurrent is a sponsor of the national organization, if I'm not wrong.
That's right. They are, excuse me, they are a sponsor of the National Electric Vehicle Association.
Great. Okay. Anybody else have any things they want to communicate? Community events, any recent EV news? If not, let's move on.
Or questions.
Couple-
Sometimes people have
Oh.
questions that they
Yeah.
want answers to, so.
We have some upcoming events. One is Touch a Truck. That's if anybody's interested in, and I think maybe it might be really keen for DEVA to get involved with it, but Touch a Truck up in Yuba City. Kind of a family event where they let kids come and explore all kinds of cars and such. It's really very family focused. And it's Saturday, April 1st. They're looking for an EV organization to come up and participate. We might be able to get one or two people from Sacramento, but I thought maybe Davis might be interested in that. I'll send some information on to you, David, and maybe you can pass on, see if anybody would like to help lead that activity.
Guy,
Yeah,
getting one of the electric buses that's in the region to go to that event would be way cool.
we tried to do that a couple years ago, one of the earlier Touch a Truck, and we had a great time there, but it was hard to get someone to come up on a weekend with a bus to drive that kind of distance, and there were charging issues at the time too. So but if there's a bus that's closer, then I think it was like more South Sacramento,
Hmm.
they were gonna have trouble. Round trip distance was an issue for them. But I'm actually connecting to try a couple bus outfits, electric bus outfits, in schools to try to get an electric bus at the DEED event, which is my
Mhm.
next point of excitement. We're having doing it again at Southside Park in Sacramento, the Drive Electric Earth Day event on April 23rd, a Sunday. And we're looking for, like about 11, probably about 20 electric cars and motorcycles down the lawn, and hoping for a bus as well. And this year we might be doing drive-alongs from our own members, because we now have liability insurance that covers ride-alongs.
Ooh, you'll have to tell us about that. That's an
Just have
offline
to-
conversation.
Yeah, yeah, gladly to do that. So anyway, Sunday, April 23rd. And I'm going to put in the chat a link to where you go register and such to participate, especially if you have an EV, you can show and share your experience.
Great.
So,
Good.
I think-
Guy, did you put that in your SAC EV news recently too?
yes, we did.
Okay. I remember seeing something. I didn't know it
But
was
we'll
that
need
far
to-
away.
Yeah, we'll need to do it. We'll be doing it a few times.
Okay.
I think I
Um,
see Linda Deos has her hand up.
Hi, yeah. Question being, we're year 2 into our Chevy Bolt lease. We got 1 more year to go on the lease. We're getting nowhere in getting our battery redone or replaced, that whole issue with Chevy. How others having that experience if you have a leased car, or that's what I'm thinking why they're not getting back to us, because it's leased.
Really? So
Oh.
that's, I went to Hanley's in Davis,
Mhm.
and I think I went in, July or August, and they got me a battery within 6 weeks. something like
They
that.
keep saying, wait till we hear from Chevy, wait till you hear from Chevy. And Chevy's like, I'm not on the list. I'm not on the list.
Are you
Really?
checking your warrant or your recall status through their site directly? They
I
should-
am. Yeah,
Is
I
it still
am.
so it's still incomplete?
correct.
Okay. Yeah, I mean,
So-
Wow.
that's
I
all.
just
They
wanted to-
wanted.
Yeah, I mean, I got
Good.
one more year to go, so maybe I don't care.
So, are you planning on buying it?
No. Yeah, so exactly. So
Yeah, no, some people with the intent to buy have run into dealerships saying they could turn their lease in, but they can't buy it because they cannot sell the car with the incomplete remedy. So
Oh,
you're
that's a good
forced to
idea.
return
though.
it. And then they're gonna fix it and mark it up like crazy like they're doing now.
Yeah, exactly. That's her concern, but okay.
By the way, Sandra had her battery replaced fairly recently. And, she loves it. It's got more range than she had before, and it's like a new car again. The leasing, I wonder if that changes the issue.
That warranty reset though,
That's a big deal.
Oh,
Thank
yeah. So,
Yeah.
so Linda, what year is yours? This is like a 2021.
22.
22.
Yeah, so 20.
Yeah, so it already had the larger battery, but that's,
Yeah.
yeah. Huh.
It did. So I just were like waiting, they want us to bring it in, they reduced our range to 80% and like, So,
Really, yeah. I don't know. I could talk to Hanley's service guy there. I know the guy fairly well.
thank you. So
I'm
that,
sorry. Last thing, have you talked to the EV concierge directly?
no, I don't know how does one get hold of the EV concierge?
Oh, last I checked, if you look on the recall site, there's
Okay.
a link to the phone number. I think it's just like EV Chevy. Like I think it's
All
that,
right.
and they're like the executive relations team that handle like the recall stuff. I'd definitely give them a shot if you haven't yet. They're able to
you.
pull strings on some stuff.
Okay.
Yeah. I used them too back in 2021 because they were so slow in following up with me towards the end of that year. And so they
Okay.
got back to me quick, although they didn't get my battery fixed quick, but
They got back to you.
yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah, they got
Thank
back.
you.
Yeah. That'll be another story someday for us. Dealing with them.
Indeed.
But anyway, yeah, try that. If you have that link, like Eric had mentioned, to the battery
Okay.
recall site. Yeah. Okay.
And Tim has his hand up.
Yeah, I didn't know if this was the time for questions or not, but I'm a new EV owner. About 4 or 5 days now, and I'm looking for charging stations in Davis. I know there's B of A, Electrify America, but that's the only thing I know of. Are there other charging stations out there? And does it take 10 hours or 30 minutes, or what's the story?
Well, there are. In fact, Chris, you did a presentation for DEVA, right?
Right, last April,
Thanks.
it's up on our YouTube site.
Okay.
And in a minute, I'll hunt around and get you the direct link. But I did a presentation on, where to find charging and around town. And then I'll just note that the city is in the process of upgrading a number of, especially their level 2 sites, plus is going to be adding another fast charger in the community in the next 6 months. So, but there are a few other fast chargers in the community. There's the Tesla bank. If you have a Tesla, you already know where that is, I would guess. And then there are level 2s around town that the city put in place several years ago. So it just depends on what you're looking for. And then
there's
there are, go ahead.
I was gonna say there's some chargers too near the Costco in Woodland. So there's Tesla chargers there, and there are also the regular CCS chargers.
So most cars can use these other chargers?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Nathan put in the chat a link, a great recommendation. That's plugshare.com.
Plugshare.com.
Oh, yes.
That's the go-to for everybody on looking for chargers.
Right. And that's an app you can put on your phone.
Yep.
And it'll show you everything close to you or wherever you're going. You can just look up this place you're going and it'll show you all of the available charging in that area.
And it'll also people that had used it recently, they can put comments on it and such, so you can see how well it's doing. What kind of car do you have, Tim?
Ionic 5.
Go.
Ah,
Yeah.
cool.
Drove down to
so-
Gilroy to get it.
So, Tim, use that link to check out the Drive Electric Earth Day in Sacramento. Show your car and share your experience.
Okay, will do. The next question I had is, okay, I should probably put a charger on my house. And I don't have a clue about any of it. So, is there a brand that people recommend? How is it, like a 50 or 150 or 350 or 700 or what?
There's a local manufacturer actually up in Auburn that does they're actually a national manufacturer, but they're headquartered in Auburn. High quality and competitive prices called
Clipper Creek.
thank you,
Great.
Oh, yeah.
Clipper Creek.
Cooper Creek?
Clipper.
Clipper Creek.
ClipperCreek.com. Great product, high reliability, high safety. Those guys do a phenomenal job.
And no fancy features, which for me is a boon. I don't need Wi-Fi connected app service, whatever. Personally, I just want a power hose that does one thing and does it correctly forever.
Yeah, good point.
Absolutely.
So
And it'll work with an Ionic 5, this Clipper
Yeah,
Creek.
Yep.
absolutely.
Okay,
So it's
Thank you.
called the level 2, which is 240 volts. Not to be confused with the 400 volt fast chargers that you can't put in a house, or I don't think you get one for a house, but
Pretty grand.
Level 2 works for every electric vehicle out there.
okay.
yeah.
And is that like a 10-hour charge, or is that like a 30-minute charge, or?
It's like about a 7-hour charge.
It
But
well, it
Depends how
depends
much
on
you
your
need, right?
size of your battery.
Yeah.
So,
How much
right,
you
and,
use.
and how much you're using. So, if you use
Okay.
40 miles worth in a day, no problem. If you're doing 150 miles in a day, it may take longer to charge your car than say in an overnight. So it's
I was just going to add, our next speaker, Tim, is Randy Wilson, who's got an Ionic 5, and let's ask him that question.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool. Thank you very much.
real life, but
Sure.
yeah.
the only other thing to pay attention to, Tim, is space in your panel in your house, depending on the age of your home. It is another 220 outlet, like your dryer in the
Right.
garage. So in fact, if you have your dryer in your garage and you don't have another room for a 220, you can put a switch on that plug and switch back and forth between your dryer and the charger. So
Okay.
there's some options out there to fit different situations.
Okay,
And-
thanks.
Last, I'd like to really encourage you to make sure you do it with an electrician.
Yes.
Okay.
It looks very simple to do, and it can be very simple, but if you don't do it perfectly, you can burn the house down.
And
Okay,
depending where you are, you're gonna want permits too.
Well, that electrician would pull the permits as well.
okay,
Okay, well, good, congratulations.
thank you.
Oh, and there's a thing that if you got a new EV, you have to take everybody around for a ride for the first time. Yeah,
And
Dang
if you
right.
have a new EV, there's a rebate with Valley Clean Energy if you're in Valley Clean Energy's area.
I'm
So-
here in Davis, so I
Yeah.
don't know.
So Valley Clean Energy is our energy provider. They purchase our power for us, and they have a local rebate for new EV owners.
And HOV lane access, that's like $5 or $10 to fill out the form and be able to go in the carpool lane.
Don't you have to have like a little sticker or something?
Mhm.
That's what you
That's
fill
what
out
you
the
get.
form for. Yeah.
Okay,
and that's through what, DMV, I believe. Yeah.
DMV.
DMV.
The lead time's roughly 2 months. I think it's $28. And that service is ending, I think, in like 2.5 years, supposedly. But they did issue new stickers for this year for some reason. So
Really.
they're green now.
Wow. Okay, we should move on. But Tim, feel free to put some notes in. If you have more questions, put them in the chat. We can always follow up at the end.
Thank you.
Okay. Let's see if we can get this guy to move. Great. So our first speaker is going to be Randy Wilson, who's got an Ioniq 5, and looking forward to this. Randy, tell you what, why don't you do the screen share and start off. You ready? You got any questions before we get going?
Can you hear me okay?
Oh, now we can. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Did you ask me to do a screen share?
Yeah. Are you going to show pictures?
No, you said you were going to put some pictures up.
No, I we miscommunicated. I was going to have
Oh.
you take pictures of your own cars. You could talk, you could show pictures of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I didn't have a picture exactly of it. Maybe we can get Tim to run out in his garage quick and start taking some pictures, but
The wife took the car.
I think everybody's seen a picture of the Ioniq by now. That's all over TV. So
okay. Well, Tim, so you've had your car when? How long?
I just hit my
Randy,
first
sorry.
anniversary a couple days ago. So I got mine February 5th. So I've had it for a year.
Okay.
I got mine February 1st.
So,
Week ago.
so Randy, tell me a little bit about how, why you picked the Ioniq 5 and how do you like driving this car?
Well, I got into the electrical world with solar and a Tesla Powerwall, and I wasn't into the EV world until I saw a picture of the Ioniq 5, and it just the design of the car intrigued me. So it just pulled me in, and I started looking at electric vehicles, and I just couldn't get away from it. And it was really, really hard to buy at the time. It took me probably 30 days of shopping online, and I was willing to travel anywhere to get it. But I finally got one in San Jose. And I never test drove it. I negotiated the car online, and I literally drove it for the first time once I owned it. And I was scared to death driving away from that lot. I'd never driven an EV before. And by the time I went from San Jose back to Stockton, I was just, I couldn't believe how fun it was.
Well, I've heard of jumping in with both feet, but you never had an EV before and you went right into it. That's great.
It's pretty typical of me. I jump into things. So it was, I think the first time that I ever went to an EV event was your event in Davis. And the only reason that I went to Davis is because I wanted to go to Davis. I lived there from 76 to 80 when I went to school. So it was fun going back.
Great.
But yeah, that was really interesting just to see. I'd already charged next to just about every car there was available at that time, but it was nice to have everybody stopped and talking about EVs. It was a nice environment. I really enjoyed your event.
Great. Yeah, we love actually really love those events too. Mostly because I love talking to all the different EV drivers and what aspect of their cars they like. But good.
Yeah, I had no idea what I was getting myself into. I knew that I had the ability to charge the car here. I have a great EV site next to me, or a EA site next to me. I was completely and utterly green, but all my anxieties went away within days. And I would say that the thrill of this particular car hasn't worn off yet. It's been a lot of fun.
Did you get the version with the larger battery or the standard battery?
Yeah, I think most Ioniq people have the larger battery unless the entry model, I think, was a 66 kilowatt battery, which is the SE, which is a pretty basic car.
Mhm.
Most of the cars that were that I saw, I got an SEL, which I kind of jumped in mid-range with a 77 kilowatt, and I have some regrets looking back. I wish I would have gotten a limited just because of the preconditioning. So going through my first winter, I'm experiencing, the slower charging times. I mean, one of the things that sold me on this car was the 800 volt system, the fast charging. And in the winter time with and the summer, hot and extremes, it can affect your times. But this car charges so fast that generally I just changed my habits. The Walmart, one of the two Walmarts in town has the EAs at it. So that just became my milk run. So by the time I got out of the car or out of the store, just buying a gallon of milk, my car was charged.
Wow.
So Randy, I've put up just the website for the vehicle, and I've got
Mhm.
the photos up there. If you
Yep.
want to use them at all, to just tell me what you want me to do, and I'll move the photos around and you can show the car off if that's helpful.
Well, what intrigued me about this car was the looks. It's a futuristic look. A lot of the EVs that are out now didn't catch my eye. I've never been a fan of the looks of the Tesla. I love the tech, but it never got me off the bench to spend the money. But when I saw this car, I was just completely intrigued by it. And then when I sat down and experienced the flat floor inside, it was I used to go to the lot where Stockton had a bunch of them, and they were marked up so high I never would have bought there. But I used to just go sit in the car. I probably sat in their cars 10 times, but I was never going to buy there. And I was just intrigued by the overall design.
Now,
And
did you
that's-
get, I
that's-
guess the center console moves on some of these, probably on the limited.
Yeah, only on the limited. Yeah. So the limited has the wheels that you see on this car. That's the same car that I have, but I have 19-inch wheels, which I've already changed.
Hmm.
And it has a glass roof as well,
Oh, okay.
which I don't have. And my dash is black. Everything is black.
Everything's
inside my car.
Okay.
Does anyone have any questions so far?
What kind of range are you finding that you do get?
Typically, I'm comfortable with 250. I do mostly highway driving. I don't commute, so I take trips in this car. In the first year, I put 23,500 miles on my car, and most of them are trips. So 250 is a comfortable range. It's rated. I think I can get my dash to show me sometimes that it'll go 320. If I'm driving in town, I can do that.
Okay.
Randy, there's a question. Do you get free charging with Electrify America?
Yeah, so Electrify America, which I'm not a big fan of, only that it's free. I probably charge there twice a week, if not more. And I'll go to 80% at their stations. I did today. Took me 15 minutes. But then if I ever have an extended trip, I'll charge up to 100% at home. but I have another year left of free charging. I probably would use their stations if they were on my way, but I don't prefer them. They're not well maintained. But when they're free, you're willing to deal with that. So when I've taken long trips like to San Diego or Vegas, or I use all the free charging. So I stop at all the EAs.
Right. Oh, I didn't ask, is it all-wheel drive or just two-wheel drive?
Mine is a rear wheel drive, and that's
Wow.
something else I would have done different. I would have gotten the all-wheel drive.
I ended up getting the all-wheel drive,
Mhm.
and it really shocked me because I went to pass a car and I was up to 85 in just like a second. And
No,
I've never experienced that kind of power before.
Yeah,
So I was actually kind of afraid. And it was just quiet and so fast that I was worried about getting a ticket without realizing I was driving so fast.
yeah,
It just had so much, I don't know, pickup power, whatever you want to call it.
yeah.
It
It's
just took
instant.
off.
Torque, yeah.
Yeah, it's really hard to go back to a gas car. So I have a fairly new Santa Fe, and it just sits in my driveway. It goes nowhere. And it's really hard to drive it because you expect it to do certain things. You expect it to react to everything that you're doing. You expect it to, I think the one thing that I knew there would be acceleration. I knew there would be instant power. Even with a rear wheel drive, I was really shocked at how fast it was. I came from a 4.2 liter V8 to this car, and it's just shocking at first. But the real thing that I didn't anticipate, that I think I love the most, is one pedal driving, which I had no idea what that meant, how that would translate to driving, especially in a city environment. But using regenerative braking, I use iPedal, which is not by default in the car. Yeah, I have to flip the pedal once when I get in. But I mean, I don't use my brakes. So unless somebody pulls in front of me, I never use my brakes. It's just a thing of the past.
Well, that was one of the questions I'm going to ask you, is I know the Ioniq 5 has got 3 levels of regenerative braking. So it sounds like you use the full on.
Yeah, it has 5 actually. It has well, it has levels 0, 1, 2, 3. So actually it has 6, and it has auto, and it has iPedal. So you can choose any of those.
What was the last one you said? It was ICO?
iPedal.
Oh,
One
iPedal,
pedal.
sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So literally the car will, when it's kind of like driving a golf cart. If you pull your foot off the brake, even if you're going downhill, if you have a normal pattern of staying behind cars and you're not on somebody's tail, the car will come to a stop. It won't coast. It'll aggressively slow you down and stop you.
Great. Cruise control, does it have a cruise where it'll actually slow it down, stop, and then go again?
Yeah, so the cruise control is very similar to any of Hyundai's products, any of the new cars that they have. So it will follow vehicles in front of you. It will maintain speed. It will stay in its lane. I mean, I can drive for hours, and I have to touch the steering wheel periodically because it knows that I'm not using the steering wheel. So it will remind me, and I have to touch the steering wheel to make a little alarm and the dash go away. But yeah, it'll literally drive itself. So if you put it on 75 on Highway 5, it'll just drive itself. You don't have to do anything.
Wow. And tell me, does it have it has a sport mode too in it, right? Doesn't it have like a
Yes.
eco mode, a normal, and a
Yeah.
sport, something like that?
Right. And I drive mine in eco mode, but if I ever come up to an intersection at a light and a V8 pulls up next to me, and that's the one of the joys of EVs is teaching them a lesson of don't mess with me. I'll put it in sport mode just to get off the line, and but I drive in eco mode.
Okay. I'll tell you this because when I test drove it, I tried all the modes out, and you know, the sport mode was scary. It was actually, and I didn't want to floor it because I had a salesman in the back seat, but it was a little scary. I was like, whoa.
Yeah, it's shocking. It really is.
Yeah.
But I've never owned an EV, so I hadn't experienced that kind of instant acceleration before. So
Great. Any other questions?
and some of the comments you made before, split volt makes a dryer conversion for your house. If your car is going to charge anywhere near your dryer, where your dryer is located, whether it be a garage, which is not in my case. I have a 100-year-old house, so my car can't even fit in the garage. So split volt allows you to plug your it plugs into your dryer outlet, then the dryer plugs into it, and the EV cord plugs into it. And if your dryer is ever turned on, it takes the power. You don't have to switch back and forth or do anything. You can keep your car plugged in, and if somebody comes in, dries, you know, a load, as soon as it starts, it will give the dryer the power, and then as soon as it stops, it'll start charging your car automatically.
Yeah, that's good. I think one of our meetings, I think we reviewed those. There was like 3 types that were out there. And what was the one you had? What was it called?
Split volt.
Split volt. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think the Electric Vehicle Association also had one that they were advertising for a while, but they look.
Yeah. The only downside is you're not going to maximize your amperage that you could get if you wired specifically for an EV.
Okay.
But generally, if I plug mine in, and even if I'm at 35% when I get home, or 30%, if I plug it in the evening, which I usually don't start charging until about 10 o'clock at night, if I'm charging at night, by the time I get up in the morning, it's at 100%.
Okay. So Tim, I guess there's your answer. So Randy, you do have a home charger on your 100-year-old house now.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I tell you, I test drove it about the time you bought yours, and I test drove it was Assoc Hyundai dealer, which now has moved to Elk Grove. And I think I was one of the first guys that actually got out there. It was right after I heard it was available, but you know, I would have loved to have bought it at the time. I just wasn't in position. I didn't need a new EV, but it was a blast to drive. So I'm glad both you and Tim have got one. Sounds like a lot of fun. The best thing, I had my wife was with me, and she loved the roominess of the car. It felt, I mean, if it felt like, you know, actually it felt like you know, out of Doctor Who, you know, it's bigger on the inside. You stepped inside and you felt bigger when you got in. So
well, I've actually taken trips where I've slept in the car, and I'm 6'4", 290. And there's plenty of room in the car. It's a lot bigger than it looks from the outside.
We have a question from Julie or two. She asked, where can you test drive one? And also, can it power your house if the power goes out? Does it have that capability?
Yes. So where can you test drive that? I mean, if you go to a dealer, which I hate to do, you know, they're starting to show up again, the 23s. There's enough of them out there where you can test drive it at a dealer. When I bought mine, you couldn't. They just weren't on the lots. You had to pre-order them. But there's a lot of Facebook pages. There's a lot of associations like yours, and people will let you drive their cars. I mean, if you ask on there, hey, I'm in Castro Valley and I really want to drive, somebody will get back to you within minutes and say, you can drive mine. There's always somebody out there that will let you drive their car.
Wow.
And what was the other question?
About powering your house.
Oh, yeah. So the Ioniq 5 has a V2L feature in it that allows you to have basically a charging handle without a cord that has a plug in the end of it. And you have a 20 amp circuit that you can plug into the car. So if you go camping, you can run it pretty much anything. I have a Tesla Powerwall at my house, so it doesn't do me any good because I store power all the time. But if you were on the road and you needed, I mean, you literally could charge another EV, but only at level 1, but you could.
Robert's asking, what's the Ioniq price range?
Well, it's going to be interesting to see if Hyundai reacts to the market right now. And so there are no federal rebates for, I got $7,500 tax break on mine. Those are not available right now because of the assembly and manufacture of the car, even though they're building a plant in Georgia. I would say that the base price, I think they started like 45 and they max at high 50s.
58,330.
Yeah.
As of last week, all of the dealers around here, the 56,000 was the cheapest I could get one, and they were saying the MSRP was like a 53 kind of thing.
Mhm.
And I ended up, Gilroy had their MSRP at 53 and I got it for 51. That was down in Gilroy.
Damn.
Yeah.
If I may jump in real quick, I happened to be at the Honda dealership like a couple days ago. If you didn't know, Stockton, Elk Grove, and so Sacramento became Elk Grove. So Stockton, Elk Grove, and Roseville are all owned by the same kind of group. So they all kind of have the same kind of pricing structure. So looking at my photo, they're limited, they're 58,330, that's great. And then there's $1,000 ding chip, whatever, and then another $1,000 paint protection, and then a $2,000 low jack, and then another $4,000 markup.
Yep.
So your $58,000 car is now a $66,200 car, and they will not budge on it, and they do not qualify for any sort of rebate federally.
Yeah.
They're sitting there like, somebody's going to pay that 66,000. Like, we're not even going to talk about it.
Right.
And that's it. Like that, they're happy with that.
Yeah.
That's why I went to Gilroy.
Yeah. So when I bought my car, standard markup was 5,000 plus they had extras. So generally any car that you tried to buy was 7 to 10 grand over MSRP at the time. I paid 50,000 out the door for a 48 MSRP, which was really difficult to do at that time. But you know, there's price pressure on Hyundai cars right now because of Volkswagen or Ford dropping and Tesla dropping. A lot of my blogs are talking about, you know, they're expecting something soon, but there's so few of them available that, you know, the supply is still limited. So people will pay.
So we have a couple of questions that are related. Patrick's asking, what is your miles per kilowatt hour? And Tom is asking, do you remember how many charge stops you had to make on your trip to San Diego?
Yeah, so my average is probably 3.2. Because I do mostly freeway driving and I changed the wheels on my car, knowing that I would lose maybe 0.1, maybe 0.2. I debadged my car immediately and did some modifications to it. People at chargers that have an Ioniq 5 ask me what my car is, which blows my mind.
And you didn't show us? You didn't show us the pictures? Like this, like, sure, you have an Ioniq. Like, it's so different than everyone else. Like, come
I'll
on.
show you.
Practice what you like. I gotta know. Like, my dad has an Ioniq. I'm like living. I'm
Well,
like, what can you do to it?
I took my anniversary trip. I went to the Headlands in San Francisco. So I took a few pics up there. So let's see, I'll show you.
Like, I mean, it's very obviously like people call it like it's got all those
So there's,
rectangles. Like, how do you?
I don't know
find
if you
it?
can see that. That's my Ioniq 5.
I see a black smudge, but I trust.
Oh, is that? You can't see it?
It's in its own shadow.
Oh,
an
yeah.
Ioniq
Well,
shape.
Oh, it looks good. It looks good.
it's blacked out. So everything is blacked out.
Oh, so I'll see. You'll be like the little shadow Ioniq. Okay, keep an eye out.
No, I actually have, if you're a Giants fan, you would love this car.
got the orange on it
Because
too.
I have, let me see if I can make it a little bigger and show you. So I have
Oh yeah.
An orange stripe. Ooh.
yeah, it's called liquid copper, and my calipers were professionally painted as well. So it's a unique looking car. But you see a lot of them at charge stations. It's fun. I mean, that's one of the great joys, I think, that I didn't anticipate, especially when I went to, I think I saw when I went to San Diego, I saw my first Lightning, which was underwhelming for me, because I love the design concepts that are coming out now. I'm looking forward to the Volkswagen Buzz. As soon as that thing comes out, it'll be in my driveway. Just the, design craziness that they're coming up with. When you see these cars in ads, they are so futuristic, which, I've lived with cars all my life. I'm a big car fan. And you see mock-ups of cars, and when they finally come out, they're nothing like, the photos that you've seen. And now electric cars are coming out and they look like those mock-ups, and they're beautiful. But when I went to San Diego, I probably stopped 4 times on the way down. And I'm 65, so 200 miles is a long drive for me. So it was really easy.
Great. Any other questions? So I talked to Barbara and Robert because they were looking for a new EV. So I gave them my top 2 choices. One was the Bolt EUV, just for efficiency and getting around. And number 2, because I haven't owned it, but was the Ioniq 5, just because that one test drive really sold me. It looked like you could have plenty of room. And I love the super fast charging, and
well, my wife has a Santa Fe, and I want her to sell it and get a Bolt EUV because it just sits in my driveway now. I love the Bolt EUV. It's probably dollar for dollar, I think, one of the best buys, especially with the tax credit. If you can take advantage of it, the federal. And I don't know if any of you saw the news flash today that came out from the state. They just revised their rebate program from the state, and I think you can literally buy that car and walk out for $20,000 or under $20,000 right now.
Yes.
What was revised about it?
They upped a few of the rebates. Hydrogen, man, you can get tons of money off of those. I think California just increased. I think one of their rebates now is up to $4,500.
Probably a lower income rebate,
Yeah.
maybe.
No, I mean, lower income, you know, a family of two adjusted gross, I think it was still fairly high. I mean, it was close to 80,000. So there's a lot of people that can take advantage of that. I mean, if I look at my Santa Fe, I bought a new Santa Fe for $38,000. Well, I bought my Ioniq 5, and with all the rebates I got pretty close to that. So to me, it was a comparable car in price.
So Randy, if I buy an Ioniq, you should get the commission.
Well, I'll tell you, when you go to a charging station and you're sitting next to an ID4 and you're sitting next to a Bolt and you're sitting next to all these other cars, you'll take notice when a Porsche shows up. You'll take notice when a Mercedes pulls up. There's some incredible cars, but there isn't anything that charges any faster on the market. So you're in and out of there faster than anybody.
Just to be clear, that also, that's the Ioniq 5, the Kia EV6, and the Genesis GV, whatever it's got. So like the
I
whole
was just gonna
platform.
say that. Yeah,
And
I was gonna say.
and there's a Mercedes. I think maybe one of the new Volvos is an 800 volt.
Yeah, the 800 volt is a real game changer for road tripping, like you're talking about.
Yeah.
If you have an Electrify America station that'll charge to 800 to charge fast enough, but
Well, you can't. I mean, if you pull up to a 350, you can't get 350. You'll get 240 maybe.
yeah, and then you have the ramp.
But that's really fast. That's 18 minutes and from 10 to 80. That's, you know, it's hard to go in and order a sandwich and come out in time. And your car is ready to go.
Wow. Well,
That's a great answer, because, you know, when Cool Davis and DEVA are at the farmer's market, you know, we still, one of the most common questions is, you know, well, there are questions about, is there charging? And then when you tell them there is, then, well, isn't that, you know, just, you have to wait and wait. And so that's such a great answer.
Yeah. Well, if you go to the B of A, you plug in your car, you walk over to the farmer's market. By the time you get back, you may have paid, you know, waiting fees by then.
sure.
Actually, we did this last Saturday, and my wife went to the farmer's market, did all her business, and still got back to the B of A, and still the car was already charged, and that was all in like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Wow.
It's great. Well, thank you, Randy. Oh, Randy, do you live in the Bay Area?
I live in Stockton.
Oh, you're in Stockton. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, thanks for coming to our show too.
Randy, are you a member of there's a Stockton chapter, the Electric Vehicle Association? Have you?
I didn't know there was one.
I will go to the Electric Vehicle Association webpage, which is myeva.org. And if you sign up there, it'll take you, the Stockton chapter will
Okay.
list.
All right.
Okay, let's move along. So Guy, I'll let you, you got slides you want to put up?
Sure. Okay. I assume everybody can see that.
Yes, we can.
All right, we've been with this, the Inflation Reduction Act, the IRA, which you gotta love that name too, but it's just been a crazy thing to try to keep on track of. It's very complex. It's been dynamic. All the rules aren't fully known yet, and so we've had a number of people in the EVA policy team working on this and providing feedback back to the IRS on how to implement this. And they've taken some of our ideas and some of the ideas of our ideas they've passed on, but it's going to be a challenge. So I'm going to take everybody through this as much as I can without getting too deep, because we could spend the next 3 hours getting into some of the details. But the first thing I want to touch on is really at a high level, what is the IRA doing? I mean, before we get down to all the individual aspects of it, what is its fundamental purpose and what is it achieving? And one of the top items that, at least with respect to EVs, is that it's shifting the purchasing power of EVs toward the low and middle income families. And it's doing that through a number of aspects. One is you can, for the first time, get a credit, tax incentive for buying a used EV. And we'll talk about each of these a little bit later. But you can take, starting next year, you'll be able to take the tax credit and assign it to the dealer and let him use it and give you back the credit for a down payment. There are caps on the income and on the MSRP for each of the vehicles. There's an EVSE incentive that is, targeted only toward either rural or low and middle income areas. And all these caps that we'll be looking at are not indexed to inflation. So this is a 10-year program. And so what you'll see is that essentially every year this gets, because of inflation, that cap gets tougher and tougher and keeps keeping those cars down in a price, a more affordable range. The second thing it does is to really provide a lot of incentives to EV manufacturers. A lot of these are only applied for cars that are manufactured in North America, and Canada and Mexico included. They get up to 45 kilowatts for $45 per kilowatt hour of any battery that they produce for this. And the battery packs can be somewhere maybe between $90 and $130. $45 per kilowatt hour is a big chunk of that. And the prior cap on the most popular EVs of 200,000 per manufacturer, that's gone. But now we're going to get into some of the fun aspects of it. But actually, before we do that, still high level, what's this all about? Is this making a difference in terms of the manufacturing? Over $28 billion of investment has been announced since the bill was signed. So these are major investments that are being made around the country and from manufacturers, U.S. and others, to build EV manufacturing in the U.S. or North America, and batteries similarly. It is working in that regard. Now, Bloomberg themselves said that it's going to force upward the adoption rate for EVs. This is a countrywide. By the way, the projection, we think these are way too conservative projections. And if you look at just California, that's where we're at in 2022. So if you've followed projections of EV sales and look at them every year, each year they come out and say, oh, we were mistaken last year, it's more aggressive. It's going faster and faster. We'll see that. And I think most people in this call already know that we have about over 72,000 EVs in the Sacramento region. So let's get to the specifics on it. Up to $7,500 per EV, given that it has to be assembled in North America. It has to fall within the 80,000 or the for SUVs, vans and pickups, or sedans under 55 or under. And that actually relates to the income. A little bit out of order there. The income is when you define your income, you can take either the year that you're purchasing it or the prior year to determine whether you fit within the income cap. And that's at $150K for a single, $300K for married, and there's one in between. Now, if you only have a tax liability for a year of say 5,000, you only get up to that 5,000. There's no carryover to the next year. Solar has a frequently used carryover on tax incentives, but not the EV incentives. So, and it treats pretty much battery electrics or BEVs and plug-in hybrids pretty much the same, as long as the plug-in hybrid has, if you look at it, the calculation, it's roughly a 25-mile range on electric only, given the size of the battery requirements. And again, as I said, this is a 10-year program and it's not indexed to inflation. So these numbers will stay. To find out when you're in the shopping, you can see which vehicles have that cap by going to a website. And I will make sure that we'll send out this link to everybody after the meeting. Okay. So when we say MSRP, what do we mean? It's really pretty simple. It's the option. It's the vehicle at a trim level with the options that were there when the manufacturer delivered it to the dealer. So if the dealer adds their own markup or adds floor mats, none of those types of things are included. Delivery costs, taxes, registration, license, all those are not included in that MSRP number. If the MSRP is above the threshold of the $55,000 or $80,000 threshold, a dealer discount can't get you under that threshold. Just like the dealer incentive markup won't take you over that. And these things this is getting really, really interesting. In fact, I think I've got another slide. Well, I'll come back to some of that. It's getting really interesting, especially even here in California. So here's a couple of vehicles that show what the effect is. So if you look at each one of these, you see the MSRP. After the IRA, what you would effectively see for that MSRA, assuming you've got the income caps that are met. And then you can add on most of them, you can add the California rebate of $2,000, typically $2,000. The Audi there, which is a plug-in hybrid, does not meet it because its electric only range is too short for California's requirements, which are different than the federal. So you'd only be able to take advantage of the IRA. Again, this strain actually had several other cars, but now they just changed some of the rules a week or so ago, and those that I said were not eligible are now eligible. But the Ford 150, the Lightning with the 320-mile range is above that 80,000, so it's too expensive. Doesn't meet the income cap. And there are others that are not made in North America that would not be eligible for it. In most cases, there is a loophole. So our take on this MSRP cap is that it's going to, again, cause manufacturers to keep reducing their price to fit underneath the caps. And it's going to create, we expect quite a bit of creativity to be invoked. Subscription pricing, where there's software add-ons, those are not included in the cap. Dealer add-ons, not included. So let's a couple examples. So the general pressure fit under that was seen by both Tesla and the Ford Mach-E. They pushed their prices down to fit underneath the cap. This Tesla's full self-driving capability, that software option is not included in the cap. BMW apparently made options that are subscription based, like heated seats. Apparently those are not included in the option. Probably not included in the MSRP. And you'll see more entertainment. I think there's going to be a lot of creativity that is going to start showing up as to how they keep that MSRP down, including possibly changing the profit model of a dealer and say we're not giving you any money for the EV, you have to do your own markup. We'll see what happens. It's going to be an interesting thing to watch. Differences with California. California does have a $2,000 and $1,000 rebate. Eligibility is different because the MSRP cap is different. By the way, the MSRP cap for California's incentives is on the base trim level. If the base trim of a vehicle is say $40,000, but there's a couple of trim levels up, they take up to $70,000. They all get to fit within they're all eligible for the incentive, for the rebate. It's only the bottom trim level that has to be fit within that cap, And that enables all trim levels to get the incentive. The IRA is, they look at that when you actually take delivery of the car, and California says, well, when you ordered it, so it's difference in time, you know, you cross a year boundary or such, could be different. And the vehicle range, again, I think I mentioned that earlier. Income caps are different, lower. And there's the higher rebates. I did a quick look, and the only rebates I saw higher than the 2,000, 1,000 that seem to be announced are still for those people that are below $75,000 or so, roughly. So then it can go up to 4,000 and such, or if you're turning, you know, maybe a cash for clunkers thing, perhaps. But this, a few of the differences between California and the IRA. Used cars, tax credit of up to $4,000 or 30%, whichever is less. The EV must be sold used under 25,000, and it's a lower income cap. It's once per EV. You can get the an incentive when you first buy the EV as a new vehicle. Then a couple of years, you can turn around and sell it as a used vehicle and get the credit, or the buyer of the used vehicle can get the credit. All right, but here's the key part. Excuse me, it must be sold by a dealer. So private parties, you know, putting your car out on Craigslist, selling it that way, you can't, the buyer cannot take advantage of the tax credit at that point. However, we've got some members at SAC EV that are looking at selling they're going through a dealer, which will provide a handling fee. I guess I presume they bring the buyer, go to the dealer will process the paperwork. The buyer will then be able to get the tax credit of up to $4,000 because technically they're buying it from the dealer. So we're gonna try to get more information out on that. I have really not heard of anybody, any other organizations talking about this, but we're certainly got one member doing that. And as far as I can tell, there's nothing wrong with that approach. Okay. All right, here is, well, actually, I'm going to come back. Let me reset myself for a moment. Commercial sales. If you have an EV that you'd like to buy for your business, for a company, from commercial use, all those constraints are gone. The location of manufacturing, the MSRP, all the income, all those disappear, and you get the $7,500 credit per light duty vehicle. Now, leasing, if you lease a car, typically the auto company essentially sells it to the leasing company, and then they turn around and lease it to you. That technically, and that was confirmed again by the IRS just in the last week, that is a commercial sale to the leasing company. So they get the $7,500. So you as a lessee, when you're going in to negotiate this, you can say, I want all or most of that credit. I want it applied to my payments for the first year. Or I want it all as help me with the drive off fee. But they don't have to give it to you. But this is where the market is so effective. You can say, I'm going to go with someone else if you don't, right? So we know that the major OEMs who have sort of almost like subsidiaries that are providing the leasing, they're still figuring this out. But in general, this is one of the ways out. So this is a big loophole. The first one is that if you're buying it for a business, then you can take that $7,500 off as part of your business taxes. If you are an individual consumer, you can go and lease and then negotiate to get that some or all of that $7,500. By the way, this has got Joe Manchin absolutely furious. He said that was not the intent of the bill. However, technically look at it, it seems that this is enabled, this is allowed, and it's consistent with the way the IRS has done treated leasing, over decades. So we'll have to see, Joe Manchin is threatening a change in the bill. But, you know, getting the bill through Congress right now is going to be tough for anybody to do for any reason. So we'll see where this goes, but these look like, especially the both leasing for normal individuals to be able to take advantage of the credit, or businesses. And the interesting one will be if you're an Uber or Lyft driver, and you drive almost, you use your car almost full time for providing the rides for the Lyft or Uber. One would expect that you would be using it as a business, and you're probably declaring income on it. So we expect that they can get a credit, but what if you're only doing it 1 day a month, 1 day a week? Do you get, I mean, how do you divide that credit up? Do you get a portion of the credit? There's no structure to say, well, you're only doing 365th. You only get 165th of the credit. I don't know how that's going to work, but this will be interesting to follow as well. So, so this is what I was talking about earlier. Leasing company gets the credit. You get to negotiate for your part of it. And again, they don't have to tell you about it. If you walk in and don't mention it, you might not ever see it. I'm not going to spend much time on this because it's not yet figured out, but as was mentioned, I think in our discussions earlier in the meeting, that this battery incentives requirements may pare down that list of available EVs. They have to have the battery made in the US and critical minerals from companies that we have trade agreements with. It's all up in the air. It doesn't get worked out until March. We're expecting the results in March. This gets a little bit of tricky. This makes a little. There could be two vehicles in the lot, on the dealer's lot, that are the identical model and trim, look identical from the outside. The dealers thinks of them as being identical, but one might be eligible and one might not, depending upon these eligibility requirements and how the car was manufactured could affect whether you get to have the incentive. This is what's making it so crazy, is that if a manufacturer changes their supply lines in the middle of their production year, the cars before a certain date, they had all their critical minerals from a friendly country that we have a trading partnership with. But the cars that are manufactured after that date, same model, everything else, just a little change in the supply chain, could suddenly cause these ones after a certain point, and it could flip it back and forth several times a year in theory, because you don't see the internals, what the supply chain is going on in the manufacturer. So you can't tell by just looking at a car on the lot. There is a VIN number. There's a website to check the VIN number to find out if it's eligible or not. So how this gets worked out is going to be interesting. It's not, they're hoping it can indicate on the Monroney sticker is the sticker in the window that talks about the price and the options. That should indicate the status, although that status changes over calendar year. So if you took delivery in December 30th, it might be eligible, but then the requirements in the next year go up. So suddenly that same vehicle that was sitting in the lot, that January 1st, is no longer eligible. So stay tuned. This is gonna be a fun ride. This is an incentive that starts next January. You're able to take that incentive, transfer it to the dealership, and say, here, Mr. Dealer, you get my $7,500. They can turn around and apply it to, in fact, they're required to be transparent and apply it fully. They can apply it fully to your down payment or lease. So they're working out the details on this, because that's why they don't know. That's one of the reasons why it's not going to be available till next year. get that structure and how that works. But that will be, so many times it's hard to buy a new car because you can't come up with a down payment. I mean, it's huge. So if you can take that $7,500 and say, take my incentive and apply it to down payment and maybe first month or two, good to go. So look down the road for it again, January 1st next year. And then we're at the near the end of this. EVSE incentives are coming up with 30% cost of hardware and installation. So that's going to be capped at $1,000. The equipment must be placed in a low-income community or non-urban area. All right. So if you're in that type of situation, you can get up to $1,000 off. Now, here's an interesting thing. If you bought one last year, anywhere, doesn't that require where you live? It's this, I already made that retroactive to January 1st of last year. It's bizarre, not just that it's retroactive, but then the requirements changed this year. So, and now they add this, the IRA added the capability to retroactively allow it for last year. So if you bought an EVSE last year, looking to being able to get the, looking to get this incentive. And I think that's, let's see, here's some references. I will figure out the best way to get that list to everybody. And just, again, what we just talked about, shifting toward lower income families, incent U.S. manufacturers to increase production, and it's very dynamic. So with that, any questions?
So
Yeah.
Guy, we'll make sure that if you send us the presentation, actually, this would be really useful for us to have, to be able to use on site. But we can also post it on the website as well and link to it when we
Can
send
I
out
send it
the,
as a PDF?
yeah, if you send it as a PDF, that would be great.
Okay.
Right.
Any questions? All right, shoot, is everybody ready to go?
Well, I'd like to get on with our calendar. Maybe if you've got questions on this, why don't we do the calendar events? Chris, you want to do that? And then we'll move on and go and then allow questions for Guy at the end.
Okay.
Because we had so much time with that Ioniq 5.
All right, so tonight we just wanted to kind of remind you all what the future holds in terms of activities going on with DEVA and Cool Davis in the Davis community, and maybe a little bit beyond this year, we'll see. But we wanted to just kind of go over our regular kind of schedule. And then at the end of this, I'm going to drop a link for a survey because we would like you all to participate in a quick survey that just asks you some information about ideas for meetings and your availability for participating in events. And then we'll be sending that out to the full group as well. So as many of you know, we've been doing Davis Farmers Market pop-ups since I think it was the summer of 2017. And we got really going on it as a regular thing in 2018. In fact, I think one of these pictures is the original picture. What's happening with this is we get hundreds of contacts from doing this and thousands of conversations in a year. And those hundreds of contacts actually turn into people learning about DEVA and coming to its meetings. And so it's a really important part of our outreach. We are anticipating that we will be doing this every month this year, except during April because of Earth Day and Picnic Day activities. And then also sometimes we don't do it during because it overlaps with our National Drive Electric Week. Let's see. Trying to get it to there we go. And then our DEVA meetings, those are every other month. And one of the things that's happening right now is that we're looking at going hybrid. I've been talking with Davis Media Access about them providing us with some of the support tools. We are looking for some folks in the group that might be willing to be our tech support for doing hybrid meetings. And we're one of the things that Davis Media Access has been doing is going around the community, checking out locations for a lot of different organizations to see if they're suitable for doing hybrid meetings adequately. Is their Wi-Fi good, and or can they plug in directly into their internet access and get good upload speeds? So they're systematically going around the community, and we're going to be able to partner with them for our meetings going forward. We're also talking about getting a little more into neighborhoods and also partnering with community organizations. So some of you might remember our having a DEVA meeting at the cannery a few years back, more like that, where we are actually out in a neighborhood and maybe even canvassing a neighborhood ahead of time and letting people know that we're there and they can come to the DEVA meeting. We are planning on, if we have enough people interested, on participating in the picnic day events this year. In the past, we've done a parade of EVs, and there's also been an on-campus showcase that SAC EV and our Davis EV group have done together. One of the members of the leadership team or the steering committee is Vaish, works at ITS, and she is checking into them sponsoring the campus showcase location. So we're interested in knowing if you're interested in participating in that this year. And those dates, picnic day is the 15th of April. And then EV events, more small show and tell activities. We did this a couple times last year, and we're looking at expanding that those activities. This is where a particular organization or a faith community or a neighborhood says, can you come and do a little mini show? And maybe some of their neighborhood members or their organization's members actually have EVs. And so when we did the event with the Methodist Church last April, they about a third of the cars that were out there with us were members of the community, featuring their cars alongside of other DEVA members. And then it was advertised to within the faith community and other faith communities to come and see the cars and do our thing. So there's a couple opportunities here. One is if you belong to an organization or you're in a neighborhood where you think this might be a fun thing to do, then think about inviting us. And then the other thing is, are you interested in maybe participating in one of these smaller events around the community? And if you have ideas about organizations we should be partnering in, that's also something we're interested in hearing back from you about. So, and then finally, Natural Drive Electric Week. Shoot, I thought I'd put it in here. I think it's in the survey. The actual dates for everything is in the survey. It's the last week of September, first week of October, like last year. And we haven't selected our particular date for our event at Farmers Market. This last year, we had more than 300 attendees and thousands of conversations. And this next year, we're hoping that we're going to be able to bring back a ride and drive. We'll see with the participation of dealers. But I'm intrigued by the new arrangements around liability insurance to allow for owners to do driving. So, with that, I'll just ask you to, I'm going to drop that link in the chat for you right now. And maybe we'll just take a few minutes to do. And you can still come after you complete it, just, pop in back in. You won't be leaving your screen here. You just be jumping out to another location for a few minutes. And we can all listen in on any additional questions that people had from the last presentation. Here it
Okay,
is.
so Chris, you're gonna pop that up. You said you're gonna pop it in the chat.
There, should be in the chat now.
Okay.
Just let me know if you have any problems.
It's opening up. Yep. Will this be open even when the meeting's done?
Oh, yeah, and what I'm hoping is if we can get the video of this meeting done fairly quickly, that Robert, we might do a e-blast out, you know, in the next week that invites everybody who didn't get to come to listen into the video, but also to take the survey, which would be helpful.
Okay.
Looks like we have a hand up. I don't know if that was a legacy hand, Greg. If you
I think
have
it's a legacy hand. I
question.
think Greg had a
Well-
question for
Okay,
for,
I have a
just
question.
checking.
I have a
for
question, yeah.
Guy,
ahead.
I'm assuming.
I have a question for Guy. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Let's say I want to go to a dealer and buy a used Bolt, and
Right.
he's selling one that's previously owned. I want to take a tax credit on it if I qualify, and I've read all the qualifications. And then it comes down to one credit in the vehicle's lifetime. So how do I know this hasn't been taken by the previous owner?
They would have been able to take a credit for when they first bought it. But it would someone have taken a used credit for a second purchase?
No, okay, or a new credit at that time they bought it, and then so I guess I don't understand about the
There is-
lifetime thing.
Well, let's see. So there's the new vehicle credit up to $7,500, and then there's then up perhaps with at least 2 years later, someone could turn around and sell that to another person and get the used credit of 4,000. There is a process that's being laid out for the dealers that they have to fill out a certain amount of paperwork to assert that. And I'll look that up, actually point you to where that paperwork has been defined to do that. But there is a process that they have to work with the IRS to make sure that all that takes place.
My experiences with two dealers, they say, we don't deal with the IRS. That's not our job. We just sell cars. And I said,
Well, yeah,
that was their attitude.
next. Yeah, okay,
Well,
next.
Well, I wanted to buy a 2020, and I said, well, how do I know a tax credit has been taken on this as a used car? Maybe. And then I won't be eligible until I file. I won't know. And that's $4,000 that I
No,
know.
you don't want to take that
That's it.
risk.
Okay.
I will track that down and share that with not just you, but the rest of the people in the meeting.
Okay. My tax lawyer didn't know how to handle that.
No, I keep hearing that they say, in fact, we say that we're not tax advisors and we're not qualified as that. So please text it with the tax people. But I can't imagine, I mean, 99 out of 100 tax people, I'm sure don't have a clue on this yet. And they're still trying to figure it out as well. So you'll have to be patient with them, but it's a great question.
Okay.
And we'll get the answer to that.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
That seems like an important one. You hate to go and get it, and then you file your taxes 6 months later, and then they go, "Whoop, sorry."
I remember reading the paperwork, and the dealer has to sign a form against penalties of perjury if they do it incorrectly. So part of the question, how does the dealer know too, you know?
Yeah. How do they know? Because I called the IRS, and they had the person I got to had no idea, but they couldn't refer me to someone that could answer.
No,
So
I expect that there'll be a site that you can check the VIN number.
not yet.
Just like that's the site you would use even for a new purchase to make sure it's eligible.
Well, yeah, but if you punch in that VIN number, it doesn't tell you if it's been taken or not. The credit.
That's what you'd want to know. And I expect that's what you'll be able to find out.
Okay. Well, nobody knows yet.
Well, that I think I think that's been worked out. I just don't know it off the top of my head, but I just remember seeing references to it. But I'll get that out to everybody.
Thank you.
I see this one in the chat about the California EV rebate. I've not been following closely, but typically every year they tend to run out of funds and go on like on the wait list to the next year. Does anybody else know the latest on the CVRP?
Well, wasn't that one of the things that someone shared that that the latest information had just been
Yeah.
released? So,
I looked at the website briefly and it looked like pretty familiar with what I've seen before. So
I think the
don't know.
CVRP's funding is annual.
Yeah.
So they have to, what happens is the California Area Resources Board, actually the staff has to take to the board meeting to get a new budget approved every year. So that's why, if you buy your car in June, you might have a chance that all the money's gone. And then you have to wait till by October because they have to take it to a board hearing, and it usually happens in September, October and stuff. So
Well, I've run into that with two of the cars that we purchased. And at least historically, the way it worked is that you essentially get on a waiting list and the next funding round,
right.
it gets filled. So it wasn't a big risk, but I don't know if that's still the way they do it or not. There's this check with the CVRP folks.
Yeah, so that is what they did in the past. You're right. If they ran out of money, you just got on the waiting list till the new funds for the next fiscal year got approved, and then boom, you went right back in. So
And the nice thing about it is it's not a tax rebate or tax incentive.
right.
It's
right.
a cash check.
Yep. Okay.
So my question then is there a website that has all these links for the rebates and the government and so forth? I think Chris mentioned there's a YouTube site or something that I could look at to.
Well,
Plug-in
So-
America, probably. I think Plug-in America has a site for looking up incentives.
right. I'm not sure how sometimes the state EV site can be the best because it covers what's going on in the state of California and the feds, but right now we're in this kind of like moment of transition, so it might not all be accurate everywhere yet. The YouTube site, Cool Davis has a YouTube site. We record these meetings every time we meet, and so though I can share that link with you, but that's a little different. And as Richard was saying, Plug-in America is a great location for a lot of really good information for everyone. And Guy, do you have any other ideas?
The EPA site is pretty good as well. So if you look for do a Google search on EPA and electric vehicles. It'll take you to a site, and on that it'll also ask you I think it asks you for your zip code. So it tries to track the incentives that are local to your area, utilities, state, municipalities, air districts.
Locally, Valley Clean Energy's EV page is pretty up to date. I think the only thing is that they're trying to track the latest stuff coming from different locations. And as I mentioned before, they have a local rebate that's available as well.
And so, Tim, I think if you go to Plug-in America, it takes you to the Department of Energy. I think it's the Department of Energy site where you can pick whether you want a federal rebate, a state rebate, or a local, or all of the above, and it'll list everything they've got, because they'll bring in PG&E and SMUD rebates at that site.
And
that's correct.
like I just said, I have the Ioniq 5, which is Korean, I think. So
right.
I have the impression I'm not eligible for the 7,500. Worth checking into, I guess.
Right. You could look, yeah, if you looked at a leasing option, then you might be able there, but yeah, you're right. Until they set up North America manufacturing, and again, not just US, but Canada and Mexico as well.
Good. I got a question for Eric. So Eric, because we keep looking at, one of these days looking at a Bolt EUV, does it? One thing I love about my Bolt is it is a fun car to drive. Is the EUV still got, it's only what, 100 pounds more, a couple 100 pounds, something like that. Is it still a fun car to drive?
Oh, it's a lot heavier with me in it. But besides that, no, man, it's the same drivetrain as every other Bolt, yeah. So I mean, more or less, I understand the 2022 plus Bolt EVs no longer have liquid cooling for the motor. I haven't substantiated that. I have one in the garage, but I found that was kind of weird. Why would they change that? But no, the EV is great. We really like it. We take it on road trips regularly. So I mean, I have the 2022 launch edition, so just putting it on 5 or 99 or